Thank you, boys and girls. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joshi. And make sure to always make a helicopter circle, stretching your arms out and spinning around like me. And make sure you're not touching anyone while doing this. Goodbye.
maintain a constant internal environment. And if it is normal, my body will not, there will be no change in temperature. But the moment when the hypothalamus detects a change in temperature. I want you to see if you can write down 3 actions that my body will take when it is too warm, when the temperature is rising. That will happen when it's a very, very hot day, and the heat of the environment conducts or radiates into my body. And then also when it is too cold, on a cold day where I will lose the heat inside my body. And you are welcome to use your textbook. We are studying, We are studying, so we look in our textbook, we look at the difficult words, and we make sure we remember them. Less. Okay, so perhaps you have something else. You can just add. We can have too hot, hair muscles relax. Skin goes red, vasodilation, and sweating. we want to say more sweat will be released. Now, hair muscles will contract and form an insulating layer. Of course, when we are higher level, we will definitely need to explain each one of these happenings in the body. You agree? Vasoconstriction, and we can say shivering will take place, which is a bit different than sweating. So if you have less sweating there, you are correct. You can also add the less muscle contraction. Yesterday, many of our kids in our school complained that they do not feel they feel tired. So then I thought, okay, but it was a very hot day. So actually they are not tired. It is their muscles that do not want to contract that much. Because when we have muscle contraction, we need to release more energy. But when I release more energy, respiration takes place. And with respiration, what is a byproduct? Heat. We understand that. So perhaps we are not really that tired as that we want to do things a bit slower, not to produce that large amount of heat in our bodies. Do you agree? Do you understand? So actually, we can add there less muscle contraction, and here we have shivering. You understand? So please, higher level, let's make sure that we can add this to our to what we know, that we can explain each of these terminologies. So why do we need to maintain a constant temperature? I'm just revising now. We need it because our enzymes need an optimal temperature to function at, and that is 37 degrees Celsius. If it is too hot, we can get hyperthermia. Hyperthermia means my body starts to overheat. Can you help me? When you experience hyperthermia, which normally happens during our summertime, what will you do? Except your body really cannot control its temperature anymore. Listen carefully. Hyperthermia means your body cannot. It's trying with sweat, it's trying with vasodilation, it's trying with all that stuff, but it cannot control it anymore. What behavior will help to conquer hypothermia? Like, you can go into a swimming pool, a cold shower, drink something cold. Nah, that helps with hyperthermia. Exactly. You drink something cold, you take off your warm clothes and rather wear short sleeves, short trousers. You agree? Okay. Right, so that is hyperthermia. And then the opposite of hyperthermia is when it is so cold that your body cannot regulate the temperature anymore. And that is 35 degrees and below. Then your body is much too cold for your enzymes to function optimally. So you will function really slow. And what will you do now, Poros? When you suffer from hypothermia, your body cannot regulate. It's trying, but there's no energy left to produce heat. What will you do? You will put on a jacket, put on a woolen frock. Now, you will drink something hot. You will cover yourself with a blanket. And you can hug someone. Yes, animals do have many ways where they are bundling and putting their heads together. Okay, interesting, when you reach an accident, many times due to shock, a person experiences hypothermia due to shock. And then they cover them with a blanket. Nee. But it's better than leaving the person out in cold, yes? Yes. Yes. Okay. Right. And that brings us to the hypothalamus. I gave you yesterday this diagram. So, and we actually just talked about this the whole morning, about it is the hypothalamus that is checking our temperature all the time. The hypothalamus works with hormones. Which hormone will be secreted when you are very cold to make you warmer? Adrenaline. But also with my nervous system, nee, because it's nerves that pull the hair. Okay, it's nerves that constrict or dilate the blood vessel. Do you realize that? So to regulate our temperature, it's hormonal and the nervous system that helps us to regulate our temperature. Okay, right, class. So I did hand out a worksheet. I want you to start working on it now so that we just cover some old exam questions. Thank you. Let's start working and thermoregulating to get through this. On the coordination in plants today. We are not used to a plant that can move. So we always thought to have sensitivity or irritability is to move towards a specific stimulus or to go away from it. But in plants, we also need to have a type of sensitivity or irritability, because plants are living organisms. When we look at the plant, we know that there is a shoot system and a root system. And what is interesting is that we always find the shoots to grow in an upwards direction, and many times we realize that they grow towards the sun. Because we know that the function of the shoot system is photosynthesis, reproduction, storage, transport, which is done by the xylem and the phloem, and there is also hormones produced in the shoot system. The root system, we find sensitivity towards gravity and also towards water. And the roots need to anchor the plant. It needs to absorb water and mineral salts. It will store, we can think about the nice orange carrot that we eat. Transport, this water and mineral salts to the leaves, and it also produces hormones. When we start with a plant, we know that the little seed contains life. That we will also discover later in a deeper sense when we do the growth of a plant. But today, I want you to see that germination means that that seed needs. It is sensitive for oxygen, it needs moist or water, and it needs a specific temperature. And when all this is reached, we will see that the embryo will start to grow and the seed will germinate. This is possible due to chemical substances that affects the activity of particular cells and organs in the plant. And we call that plant hormones or plant growth substances. This definition is important to remember. Chemical substance that affects the activities of particular cells and organs in a plant. We are going to study the example of auxins. And a golden rule to start with is auxins are produced in the tip of the shoot and the tip of the root. Produced in the tip of the root and the tip of the shoot. So, when we are looking at this ability of a part of a plant to grow towards light, or like the roots that is growing towards gravity, is recalled as growth movements, and it's made by a part of a plant. Therefore, we say a plant will not move itself out of the soil or its pot. It will only have different parts that will grow in a specific direction. If we have a response towards a stimuli, we will say it's a positive tropism. If it is away, it is a negative tropism. So if we look at the word phototropism, we know that photo means light. Photo means light. And if something is growing towards light, it is positive phototropism. So we will say the shoots shows positive phototropism, but the roots show negative phototropism. If we look at geotropism, it's also known as gravitropism. It is when we have a direction towards gravity. And of course, the roots will be positive geotropic. Chemotropism is when we have a stimulus of a chemical substance, and the part of a plant is stimulated to either grow into that direction or grow away. Hydrotropism, of course, will be water. Will be water, and we will also find the roots to be positive hydrotropic and the shoots to be negative hydrotropic. So we are going to look at a video now that explains to us the whole sense of tropism. Let me just find our slide. Ugh, come on.
The unfurling of a flower as a day breaks, or the snap of a Venus flytrap shutting. Occasionally, plants can respond very quickly to a stimulus. But most responses in plants are far too slow to see in real time. These responses are controlled by growth. Growth responses are constantly at work, directing plants towards or away from a stimulus to seek out the best conditions. They're called tropisms. The most crucial plant tropisms are to light, gravity, and water. Responses to light are called phototropism. Responses to gravity are geotropism, and responses to water are hydrotropism. Growth responses are either positive or negative, towards or against the stimulus. For example, when this seed germinates, the shoot will always grow towards light and upwards against gravity. Whilst the roots always grow down into the soil and towards water. But how do plants control these growth responses? The answer is a plant hormone made at the tips of stems and roots. Auxin. The amount of auxin can be affected by external conditions, and it encourages growth. For instance, because light falls unevenly on this stem, more auxin accumulates on the shaded side, causing it to grow faster. The result is a stem that bends towards the light. Knowing the effects of plant hormones means we can use them for our own benefit. Auxins are used in rooting powder to stimulate root growth on plant cuttings and increase fruit yields. For all plants, tropisms provide a critical response system, allowing them to seek out the best conditions for survival.
This helps us to just see actually what happens, because in real time we cannot see how it is growing. So I like that video. They want us in the syllabus to understand the difference between the word tropism and taxis. Sorry, let me just continue there. So tropism refers to when a part of a plant is directed by a stimulus, while where an organism is capable of directed physical movement, a movement or any activity in response to a specific stimulus, it is more likely to be regarded as taxis or directional response. So what I want to use as an example is the moth or the insects that during nighttime is flying into the direction of light. They are attracted by the light. The light is the stimulus and it is directing their movement, in which direction they will move. So when we are referring to an organism that is directed to move into a specific direction because of a stimulus, it is called taxis. And a part of a plant that moves into a specific direction due to a stimulus will be called a tropism. Now it is important to understand what makes this growth possible into one direction. Perhaps you have heard it in the video. When the auxin is produced in the tip of the shoot, the auxin will diffuse. It is produced there in the tip of the shoot, and then it will diffuse down into the cells. But more auxin will collect on the shaded side. So if light is coming from this side, more will collect on the shaded side. It is important to use the word more there. This makes the cells on the shaded side to grow faster and they elongate. On the light side, they grow at a normal speed. Because I have now in one tip of a plant 2 different rates of growth, one on the shaded side, the cells grows faster and elongate faster than where they are normally grows on the side of the light. We say it is differential growth. Same cells on the same plant, but they grow at different rates. Why? There is more auxin on the shaded side. And we learn that auxin is stimulating cells in the stem when they are at higher concentrations. So, when we look at this, we see that the light is coming from the side. I have a control, which means for this coleoptile, which means I have a seed that germinated, and that first sheath that is coming out of a grass seed is called a coleoptile. I see that it will bend towards light. If I remove the tip, it will not bend towards light. Why? Auxins are produced in the tip. When I cover the tip with an opaque cap, it means auxins can be produced, but it is not stimulated to gather on one side. If I put on a transparent cap and the light can stimulate so that I have a higher concentration on the shaded side, it will bend. It will not help to cover the base because the auxins is produced in the tip, and it will still diffuse and still have a higher concentration on the shaded side. So it can still have a higher rate of growth. If I put in a gelatin block and diffusion can happen through the gelatin, it will still bend. If I put in a mica cap, that means a cap that do not allow the diffusion of the auxin to the lower cells, it cannot grow towards light because it means I do not have a higher concentration on the one side. So here we just have a repetition and something more. If it was put on that side, it will grow straight up. Now, although I have the light from one side, the auxin could not gather on that side. In this case, auxin could gather on that side. In this case, the cap was lifted and gelatin were placed in between. And that tells me that diffusion could take place through the gelatin, and because light was on one side, the auxin could gather more auxin on the shaded side.